The rain had been falling over the small town of Black Hollow for 3 days without stopping. Water slid down the old windows of every house and turned the narrow streets into rivers of mud. Most people stayed indoors after sunset. They had a reason. Something had changed in Black Hollow 6 months ago. That was when Ivy died. Thea still remembered the phone call, still remembered the shaking voice, still remembered the cold feeling that spread through her body before anyone even explained what happened. Ivy had been her best friend since childhood. They had grown up together, shared secrets together, dreamed about leaving Black Hollow together. Then one night, Ivy vanished. 3 days later, her body was found in the forest beyond Hollow Creek. The police called it an accident. The townspeople accepted that explanation. Thea never did, because Ivy had been terrified of that forest. She never would have gone there alone, especially not at night. 6 months passed, the funeral ended, life continued. But for Thea, nothing felt normal. Every morning she woke expecting a message from Ivy. Every evening she caught herself looking toward the empty seat beside her. Sometimes she even imagined seeing her friend in crowds. A familiar face, a familiar smile. Then the stranger would turn, and Ivy would disappear. On a stormy Thursday evening, Thea returned home from work and found something waiting on her porch. A small cardboard box. No address, no name, no return label. She picked it up. The box felt damp from the rain. For several seconds, she simply stared at it. An uncomfortable feeling crawled through her stomach. Something about it felt wrong, like it did not belong there, like it should have remained wherever. It came from Thea, carried it inside. The house was silent, except for the sound of rain hitting the roof. She placed the box on the kitchen table, then slowly opened it. Inside was a single object, a silver friendship bracelet. Thea froze. Her heartbeat stopped for one terrifying moment. She knew that bracelet. She knew every scratch on it, every tiny mark, because she had given it to Ivy on their 16th birthday. The bracelet had been buried with her. Thea remembered watching it disappear into the coffin. Yet here it was, resting inside a wet cardboard box, waiting for her. A chill moved down her spine. She picked it up carefully. The metal felt ice cold, far colder than it should have been. As soon as her fingers touched it, the kitchen light flickered. Once, twice, then darkness filled the room. Thea gasped. A second later, the lights returned. Everything looked normal again, except for one thing. The bracelet was gone. Thea looked around the table, the floor, the box. Nothing. It had simply vanished. She stood motionless, trying to convince herself she imagined it, trying to convince herself grief was making her see things. Then she heard a whisper, a voice barely louder than the rain. Thea. Her blood turned to ice. The voice sounded exactly like Ivy. Thea spun around. Nobody stood behind her. The room was empty. Yet she knew what she heard. The voice came again. Thea. This time it seemed to drift from upstairs. Hallway leading to her bedroom. Thea felt every instinct telling her not to move, not to follow, not to investigate. But another feeling pushed against that fear. Hope. A dangerous hope. Because the voice belonged to Ivy. Thea slowly climbed the stairs. Each step creaked beneath her feet. The house felt colder with every second. The air smelled strange, like wet earth, like soil freshly dug from a grave. When she reached the hallway, she stopped. Her bedroom door stood open. She was certain she had closed it before leaving for work. The darkness inside seemed deeper than normal, almost alive. Thea swallowed hard and walked forward. A shadow moved across the room, just for a second. A shape standing near the window, tall and thin. Thea rushed inside. Nobody was there, only rain tapping against the glass. Then she noticed something on her bed, a photograph. She slowly picked it up. It showed her and Ivy standing beside Hollow Creek when they were children. The picture should have been inside an old album stored in the attic, yet now it rested on her blanket. What frightened her most was not the photograph itself. It was what appeared behind them. A figure, tall, dark, watching from the trees. Thea stared at it. She had never noticed that figure before, not once. The shape looked almost human, but its arms were too long, its face completely black. The longer she looked, the more wrong it seemed. Then the photograph changed. Thea nearly dropped it. The dark figure moved, not suddenly, slowly, one step closer. Thea threw the photograph onto the bed. Her hands trembled violently. That was impossible. Photographs did not move. Photographs did not change. The room suddenly became freezing cold. A gust of air swept across her face. Then she heard breathing. Someone standing directly behind her, breathing softly into her ear. Thea turned. Nothing. The room remained empty, yet the breathing continued. She could hear it, feel it. The sound moved around her, circling her, like an unseen predator. Then everything stopped. Silence. Complete silence. Even the rain seemed to vanish. For several seconds the entire world felt dead. Then a loud crash exploded downstairs. Thea jumped. The sound shattered the silence. She ran from the room and hurried down the stairs. The kitchen was a disaster. Chairs overturned, cabinets hanging open, plates broken across the floor, and written on the wall in dark, dripping letters were 4 words: "I never left you." Thea backed away. Her breathing became rapid. Tears filled her eyes, because she recognized the handwriting. It belonged to Ivy. The exact same handwriting, the exact same style, the exact same shape of every letter. Suddenly, someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. Thea nearly screamed. She stared toward the entrance. More knocks followed. Slow, heavy, patient. Whoever stood outside was not in a hurry. Thea forced herself forward. She looked through the small window beside the door. No one. The porch was empty. The street was empty. Rain poured from the sky. Yet the knocking continued. 3 more knocks, coming from the other side. Thea opened the door. Nothing. No person, no animal, no sign that anyone had been there. Then she looked down. A muddy footprint sat on the porch. Just one. A single footprint facing the door. The shape appeared human, but it was enormous. Far larger than any normal foot. Thea stepped backward and slammed the door shut. She locked every lock, closed every curtain, then sat in the living room until sunrise. She never slept, not even for a minute. Morning finally arrived. Sunlight pushed away the darkness. Everything seemed less frightening during the day. The writing on the wall was gone. The broken dishes had disappeared. The kitchen looked completely normal, almost as if none of it happened. Thea wanted to believe it was a nightmare, a stress-induced hallucination, a trick of grief. Then she found the photograph, still resting upstairs, and the dark figure inside it had moved closer again. Now it stood directly behind her younger self, watching, waiting. That afternoon, Thea drove to the cemetery. She needed answers, needed proof that she was losing her mind, or proof that she was not. The graveyard stood on a hill overlooking Black Hollow. Old stone markers stretched in every direction. Many were so ancient, their names had faded away. Thea walked toward Ivy's grave. Rain clouds gathered overhead once more. The wind carried a low, mournful sound through the trees. When she reached the grave, she stopped breathing. The soil had been disturbed. Fresh dirt covered the ground, as if someone recently dug there. Thea knelt beside it, her hands shaking. Then she noticed something sticking from the earth. A piece of silver. The friendship bracelet. The same bracelet, half buried in the mud. Thea stared at it in horror. Before she could touch it, a voice spoke behind her. "You should leave that alone." Thea jumped. An old woman stood several feet away, wrapped in a black coat. Her pale eyes seemed strangely bright. Thea had never seen her before. "Who are you?" she asked. The woman looked toward Ivy's grave. "Someone who remembers," she answered. Thea frowned. "Remembers what?" The old woman remained silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. "The forest took your friend, and now it wants you." A cold feeling settled inside Thea. "What does that mean?" The woman looked directly into her eyes. "Did Ivy ever tell you about the Hollow Man?" Thea shook her head. The old woman sighed. "Most people think it is a story, a legend used to frighten children. But stories begin somewhere. Long ago, people vanished in those woods. Then they came back different. They looked the same, sounded the same, but they were not the people who left." Thea felt her heart pounding harder. The old woman continued. "The thing in the forest learns. It copies, wears faces. Sometimes, it wears them for years. Then one day, it comes for someone new." The wind suddenly grew stronger. Branches swayed overhead. The old woman stepped closer. "Listen carefully. If Ivy calls your name, do not answer. If you see Ivy after dark, do not follow her. And if she asks you to come into the forest, run." Thea opened her mouth to speak, but thunder exploded overhead. She flinched for only a second. When she looked back, the old woman was gone, vanished as though she had never been there. The cemetery stood empty. Thea was alone. A soft voice drifted from behind the gravestone, a voice she knew better than her own. "Thea." Slowly she turned. A pale face peeked from behind the stone. A familiar face. Ivy's face, smiling, watching, and that was the moment Thea realized something terrifying. Her dead friend had been waiting for her all along. The smile never changed. Ivy stood behind the gravestone staring directly at Thea. Rain began falling again, small drops striking the grass around them. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Thea felt frozen. Her heart hammered so hard she thought she might collapse. This could not be real. Ivy was dead. Thea had attended the funeral. She had watched the coffin lowered into the ground. She had stood beside this very grave and cried until her throat hurt. Yet now Ivy stood only a few feet away, looking exactly as she had before her death. The same dark hair, the same green eyes, the same smile. But something felt wrong, terribly wrong. The smile never reached her eyes. Those eyes looked empty, like deep holes leading somewhere dark. Thea forced herself to speak. "Ivy." The figure tilted her head, a movement that seemed almost mechanical, as though she had learned how humans moved by watching them, not by being one. "You came." The voice sounded perfect, exactly like Ivy, yet there was something hidden beneath it. Another sound, a faint whisper moving under every word. Thea took a step backward. The old woman's warning echoed inside her mind. "If Ivy calls your name, do not answer. If you see Ivy after dark, do not follow her. Run." But it was daytime, and this was Ivy, wasn't it? Tears filled Thea's eyes. "I thought you were dead." The smile widened. "I was." Thea stopped breathing. The answer came too quickly, too casually, as if death meant nothing. Forward. Mud covered her shoes. Her clothes looked damp, like she had spent months walking through rain-soaked woods. "I missed you," she said softly. Thea wanted to run, wanted to believe the old woman. Yet every memory fought against that fear. This was her best friend, the person she trusted more than anyone. Ivy raised a hand. "Come with me." The forest. The answer arrived instantly. Thea felt cold terror spread through her body. "Why?" "Because I found something. Something beautiful. Something waiting for us." The whisper beneath Ivy's voice grew louder. Thea could almost hear multiple voices speaking at once, all saying the same words. "Come with me. Come with me. Come with me." Thea took another step backward. "No." The smile vanished. For the first time, anger appeared inside Ivy's eyes. Only for a second, then it disappeared. "You promised we would never leave each other." Thea felt sick. Those were words they had often spoken as children, but hearing them now felt wrong. like a threat, not a promise. The wind suddenly howled across the cemetery. Thea blinked, and Ivy was gone, completely gone. No footsteps, no movement, nothing. Only rain falling over empty graves. Thea stood there trembling. Then she ran. She ran all the way back to her car. She did not look behind her once, not even when she thought she heard footsteps following her. That night, she searched through every old box in her attic. Hours passed. Dust covered her clothes. Her hands ached. Finally, she found what she needed. A small wooden case containing photographs, letters, drawings. Everything connected to her friendship with Ivy. Thea carried the box downstairs, then began searching through it. Most items looked normal. Birthday cards, school pictures, old notes passed during class. Then she found something strange. A folded sheet of paper she had never seen before. The page looked old, its edges yellowed with age. At the top, someone had written a single sentence. "The hollow man takes what you love first." Thea stared at it, her stomach tightened. Beneath the sentence was a list of names, almost 20 names. Each name had a date beside it. The earliest date was more than 80 years old. The newest date made Thea's blood run cold. Ivy Walker, 6 months ago. The page slipped from her fingers. Who made this? How did it end up inside their memory box? And why was Ivy's name there? Before she could think further, another sound echoed through the house. A knock. 3 slow knocks. Thea closed her eyes. Not again. The knocking continued. Steady, patient, waiting. Thea remained motionless. Another knock, then another, then another. Eventually, curiosity defeated fear. She approached the front window, carefully pulled aside the curtain, and looked outside. Nobody stood there. The porch was empty. The street was empty. This time, from inside the house. Thea spun around. The sound came from upstairs. 3 knocks. Then silence. 3 more knocks. Thea stared toward the staircase. The noise came from her bedroom. Slowly, she climbed upward. Every muscle in her body screamed at her to stop, but she continued. The knocking ended the moment she reached the hallway. Her bedroom door stood open. The room appeared empty. Thea stepped inside, then froze. Something was written on the wall above her bed. "Come find me." The letters looked freshly scratched into the paint, as though carved by sharp fingernails. Below the message was a map, a rough hand-drawn map of Black Hollow. One location had been circled repeatedly: the forest, specifically the area where Ivy had died. Thea backed away. No chance. She was not going there. Not alone. Not after everything that happened. Suddenly, a loud crack sounded outside. The power failed. Darkness swallowed the house. Thea gasped. The only light came from distant flashes of lightning beyond the windows. Then she heard movement beneath her bed, a slow, scraping sound. Thea stood completely still. The sound came again, something dragging itself across the floor underneath her. She stared at the darkness, unable to move. A pale hand slowly emerged from beneath the bed. Its fingers looked thin and impossibly long. The skin appeared gray, rotting. The hand gripped the edge of the mattress. Then another hand appeared. Then another. Thea screamed. She ran from it. The room. Nearly falling down the stairs. Behind her came a horrible sound. Laughter. Dozens of voices laughing together. The power returned seconds later. Light flooded the house. Everything became silent. Thea did not stop running until she reached her car. She drove straight to the public library, the oldest building in town. If answers existed anywhere, they would be there. Hours passed as she searched through records, newspapers, historical documents, town archives. Near midnight, she finally found something, an article from 1958. A local family had vanished near Hollow Creek. Only one survivor returned, a 12-year-old girl named Emily Rhodes. According to the article, she claimed a creature lived beneath the forest, a thing that wore human faces. The townspeople dismissed her story. 3 days later, Emily disappeared, never found. Thea continued reading. More articles followed. More disappearances, more witnesses, all describing the same thing. A figure that copied dead people. A figure that called victims into the woods. Every report mentioned one name, the Hollow Man. Then Thea discovered something else. A photograph, old and damaged, taken nearly 70 years earlier. Several townspeople stood outside a church. The image looked ordinary at first. Then she noticed someone standing in the background, watching from between the trees. Tall, thin, dark. The same figure from her childhood photograph. The exact same figure, 70 years apart, looking identical. Thea felt sick. A librarian approached quietly. "You should not be reading those." Thea jumped. An elderly man stood beside her. His face pale, his expression uneasy. "Why?" she asked. The man glanced around before answering. "Because people who look into that story usually disappear." Thea stared at him. "You know about it." "Everyone old enough knows. Most pretend not to." The man lowered his voice. "The thing in those woods has been here longer than this town. Maybe longer than the country itself. People used to leave offerings at the forest edge. Animals, food, anything to keep it satisfied. Then modern people arrived. They laughed at old stories, stopped respecting old rules, and the disappearances began again." Thea swallowed hard. "What does it want?" The man's expression darkened. "Friends." Thea frowned. "Friends?" He nodded. "It feeds on connection, love, trust, memories. That is why it copies people. The stronger the bond, the easier it becomes." Thea felt ice spread through her chest. "Ivy." The old man nodded slowly. "If it chose her, then it will use her face until it gets what it wants." "And what does it want from me?" The librarian looked directly into her eyes. "You." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The library suddenly seemed colder, much colder. The old man pointed toward a newspaper clipping. "There is one way to stop it." Thea grabbed the article. The page described an incident from 1924. Several townspeople entered the forest after a wave of disappearances. According to his testimony, the creature could not tolerate remembrance. The thing copied memories, but it never truly understood them. The survivor defeated it by forcing it to confront memories it could not imitate. The article ended abruptly. No details, no explanation, only fragments. Thea looked up, but the librarian was gone, vanished, just like the old woman in the cemetery. A strange fear settled over her. How many people in Black Hollow knew about this, and how many were still human? When she finally left the library, it was nearly 1 in the morning. Rain poured from the sky. The streets stood empty. As she approached her car, she noticed someone sitting inside. Thea stopped moving. Her breath caught in her throat. A girl sat in the passenger seat, watching her, smiling. Ivy. Thea backed away. The doors were locked. There was no way anyone could be inside. Yet Ivy remained there, silent, smiling, waiting. Then she slowly raised one hand and pointed toward the forest beyond town. Thea turned away immediately. She refused to look again. When she forced herself back a second later, the car was empty. The passenger seat contained nobody. Thea climbed inside, locked every door, and drove home. But she never noticed the muddy footprints covering the back seat, or the pale figure sitting behind her, smiling silently in the darkness, waiting for the moment Thea would finally enter the forest, because deep beneath the trees, something ancient had already begun preparing for her arrival. The forest did not look like it belonged in the same world as Black Hollow. Even in daylight, it felt wrong. The trees stood too close together. their branches twisted in unnatural directions. The deeper Thea walked, the more the air seemed to change. Heavier, thicker, like something was pressing down on her chest from above. She had not planned to come here, not like this, but she also could not ignore what she saw last night. The car, Ivy sitting inside, smiling like she had never died, or like death meant nothing at all anymore. Thea stopped at the edge of Hollow Creek, the same place where Ivy's body had been found months ago. The water moved slowly, too slowly, as if it was thinking before every movement. She knelt near the bank. Her reflection stared back at her. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Just her. Just a tired girl standing in a cursed forest. Then the reflection blinked. Thea did not. She stepped back immediately. Her heart slammed against her ribs. No, 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 no. The reflection tilted its head slightly and smiled. From beneath the water surface, something moved. A shadow, long and thin. The shape rose slowly, breaking through the reflection like it was breaking through glass. Thea ran. Branches scratched her arms as she pushed deeper into the forest. She did not know where she was going, only that she needed distance. From the creek, from the reflection, from whatever had just looked back at her. The forest seemed to respond to her fear. The shadows between the trees grew darker. The wind died completely. Even the birds stopped singing. Then she heard it. Her name. Soft, familiar. Ivy's voice. Not behind her, not in front of her. Everywhere. Thea, Thea, Thea. She covered her ears. No, stop. But the voice did not stop. It followed her like smoke, seeping into her thoughts. You came for me. Thea froze. That sentence was not spoken like a question. It was spoken like a fact. Slowly she turned. Ivy stood between the trees, waiting. Except she was not standing properly. Her body leaned slightly forward, as if pulled by invisible strings. Her smile was still there, but now it looked strained, almost painful. Thea stepped back. Why are you doing this? Ivy tilted her head again. I am not doing anything. A pause. Then the voice changed. For a fraction of a second, it was no longer Ivy's voice. It was something deeper, something layered. We are. The forest around them seemed to tighten. Branches creaked without wind. Leaves trembled even though nothing touched them. Thea felt her vision blur. You are not Ivy. The smile flickered, like a broken signal. I am what she was. I am what you remember. Thea shook her head. No, you are not her. Ivy's expression shifted. For the first time, it looked confused. Then it smiled again. But this time, the smile was wrong. Too wide, too still. Do you remember the day we promised? Thea stepped forward without meaning to. Her memories surfaced against her will. Two girls sitting by Hollow Creek, laughing, swearing they would never leave each other, forever. The word echoed too loudly inside her mind. Forever. The thing wearing Ivy's face moved closer. We can still keep that promise. Thea felt something break inside her. Stop. The voice softened. Why are you afraid of me? I am her. I am everything you refuse to let go. The forest grew colder, frost forming lightly on fallen leaves. Thea clenched her fists. You are using her. The smile vanished completely now. The face went blank. For a moment there was no expression at all. Then it spoke again. No, I am keeping her. A silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Thea realized something horrifying. This thing did not understand death the way humans did. To it, death was not an ending. It was a doorway to imitation, a place where memories could be harvested and reused. The figure took another step forward. Ivy's face began to flicker. For half a second, Thea saw something else underneath. Not a face, a hollow shape, too many eyes trying to exist in the same place. She stumbled backward. That is not her. The thing stopped, then slowly tilted its head, Something shifted inside its expression, like curiosity. If I become her perfectly, will you come with me? Thea felt tears burning her eyes. No, the answer came immediately. No matter what you do, you are not her. Something changed in the forest. A deep, low sound spread through the ground, like something massive turning beneath the soil. The figure's smile returned, larger now, more certain. Then I will improve. The trees began to move, not sway, move, their roots lifting from the ground like fingers reaching upward. The forest itself was waking up. Thea turned and ran again, but this time, the forest did not let her go. Roots rose from the ground like traps, branches twisted to block her path. The air filled with whispering voices, all speaking in broken versions of Ivy's voice. Thea, stay, remember, promise. She tripped and fell hard against the forest floor. Pain shot through her arm. Before she could stand, something cold wrapped around her ankle. A root. It tightened immediately, dragging her backward. Thea screamed. She clawed at the ground, trying to pull free, but the forest was stronger. She was dragged toward a clearing she had not seen before. And there it was. A circle of stone, half buried in earth, covered in old symbols, older than anything she had ever seen in Black Hollow. At the center stood Ivy, or what wore Ivy's shape, waiting. Thea was pulled into the clearing and thrown onto the ground. The root released her ankle instantly, as if it had only been guiding her there, not capturing her. Thea coughed and looked up. The thing stood calmly in front of the stone circle. Around it, the forest was completely silent. Even the wind had stopped. The figure spoke softly. You came. Thea struggled to stand. What is this place? The thing smiled gently. A place where memories become real. A place where promises cannot be broken. Thea noticed something carved into the stones. Names. Dozens of names. Some ancient, some recent. All circling the clearing. All leading toward the center. Toward Ivy. No. Toward it. Thea stepped back. What are you? For the first time, the thing hesitated, as if the question required thought. Then it answered. I am what remains when people forget how to let go. The forest around them began to hum, low and rhythmic, like a heartbeat growing stronger. Thea felt a sudden realization hit her. This was not just a creature. It was something the forest had grown over time. Something fed by grief, by memory, by refusal to accept loss. And Ivy had been the door, the first step. The thing raised its hand, and the air around Thea shimmered. Images appeared, fragments of her memories. Ivy laughing, Ivy crying, Ivy sitting beside her on cold winter mornings. Every moment they shared began to float in the air like broken glass. Do you see? The voice was softer now, almost gentle. I do not destroy, I preserve. Thea shook her head violently. You are twisting everything. The figure stepped closer. Or perhaps I am the only one who remembers correctly. The circle of stones began to glow faintly, the symbols lighting up one by one. Thea felt something pulling at her mind, her memories starting to blur, her sense of what was real weakening. No, she whispered. No. But the forest answered instead, with Ivy's voice. Come back. And for the first time, Thea hesitated. Thea stood at the edge of the glowing stone circle, trembling as the forest around her seemed to breathe in and out like a living thing. The symbols carved into the stones pulsed with a dim light, each one brightening in slow sequence, like a heartbeat waking up after centuries of sleep. The thing wearing Ivy's face watched her without blinking. Its expression was calm now, almost peaceful, as if it already knew the ending. Thea forced herself to step backward. Her heel hit something soft in the soil. When she looked down, she saw roots moving beneath the surface. Not still, not dead, waiting. The voice of Ivy came again, softer this time. You do not have to be afraid. Thea clenched her fists. Stop using her voice. A small pause followed. Then the thing smiled again. I am not using it. I am remembering it. The words made something cold twist inside Thea's chest. Around them, the forest grew quieter. Even the distant creek had stopped moving. No wind, no birds, only the slow rising hum from beneath the ground. Thea looked at the carved names around the circle again. Now she saw something she had missed before. Each name was not just written, it was repeated, layered, scratched over itself thousands of times, like someone had been trying to preserve them for too long. As if writing alone could stop them from disappearing. Her eyes stopped on Ivy Walker, the newest name, the freshest carving, and beneath it something else was forming, not carved, growing. The same name again, but not fully formed. Like the stone itself was trying to learn how to remember. Thea stepped forward without meaning to. You do, to her. The thing tilted its head. I did nothing. She came to me, willingly. Thea shook her head. No, she would never. She came to me apologizing. My safe escape. What does someone do when they cannot accept loss? The forest behind Thea shifted slightly. A root moved like a finger brushing against her ankle. She ignored it. Her eyes stayed locked on Ivy's face. The thing continued. She spoke to me first. In grief, in anger, in loneliness. She asked for a way to bring you back. Thea froze. No, that is not true. The smile widened. Is it not? The air around them thickened. Images formed again in the space between them. Not memories this time, something worse. A scene Thea did not want to see, but could not escape. Ivy alone in her room. Rain against her window. Crying, writing something on paper, tearing it up, writing again, whispering Thea's name into empty darkness. Then standing at the edge of Hollow Creek at night, the forest watching from beyond the trees. Thea shook her head violently. Stop it. The vision continued. Ivy stepping into the forest, not afraid, not forced, calling out, not to the monster, but to something deeper, something she believed could answer her. The image shattered. Thea staggered backward. That is not real. The thing stepped closer again. The forest suddenly reacted. Roots rose higher this time, surrounding the circle like ribs closing around a heart. The hum became louder, almost deafening. Thea realized something terrifying. The circle was not protecting anything. It was containing something, and it was breaking. She turned sharply, trying to find an exit, but the forest had changed completely. The trees no longer formed a path. They formed a boundary, a wall of living wood, closing in slowly. No way out, only inward. The thing spoke again. You cannot leave, not anymore. Thea backed toward the stone circle's edge. Why? The answer came gently. Because you are already part of it. The ground beneath her feet softened slightly, like soil turning into something warmer, something breathing. She stepped back quickly. Her foot sank deeper. The earth was no longer solid. It was becoming memory. Thea pulled her leg free and fell to her knees, panic rising in her throat. What is happening? The thing looked almost sad now. The forest remembers what people refuse to forget. You carry her with you. Every thought, every regret, every moment you could not accept. Thea's breathing became uneven. No, I remember her because she was real. The thing nodded slowly. Yes, and that is why you are important. The circle of stones began to rise slightly from the ground, roots lifting them like hands preparing an offering. The glow intensified. Thea felt something pulling at her mind again. But this time it was stronger. Her sense of self began to blur. Images of Ivy and her began to mix with things she could not place. Moments that felt real but were not hers. A shared history that kept changing every time she tried to focus on it. "No," she whispered. "Stop." The thing stepped forward until it stood just a few feet away. "Do you see her clearly now?" Thea tried to respond, but her voice caught. The images around her grew sharper. Ivy smiling. Ivy standing in sunlight that did not exist in Black Hollow. Ivy holding her hand. But something was wrong. In every memory, the edges were dissolving, like ink in water. The thing continued. "I do not create lies, I complete them." The forest suddenly trembled. The stone circle cracked faintly. A deep sound echoed from beneath the ground, like something enormous shifting in its sleep. Thea realized with horror. It was not just trying to trap her. It was trying to replace everything she knew. Not just Ivy, everything. Her memories, her grief, her identity, all of it. She screamed, "No," and something inside her finally snapped. The memories around her flickered violently. Ivy's face split for a second, revealing what was beneath it. Not a single being, but a layered emptiness, trying to imitate shape. The thing staggered slightly, as if the scream had hurt it. The forest reacted instantly. Roots surged toward Thea, faster now, angrier. She rolled aside, barely avoiding them, and sent her crashing into the stone edge. Pain shot through her arm, but she pushed herself up again. Thea looked at the circle, at the glowing symbols, at Ivy, and for the first time she understood something. It was not feeding on her presence, it was feeding on her refusal. Her refusal to let Ivy stay gone. Her refusal to accept the ending. That was the door. Thea gasped, her eyes widened. "You are not Ivy," she said again, but this time differently. Not as fear, not as hope, but as truth. The thing froze. The forest itself seemed to pause. Even the humming stopped for a fraction of a second. Thea stepped forward. "I remember her, but I do not need you to keep her alive." The moment she said it, something changed. The air cracked, like glass under pressure. The image of Ivy flickered again, more violently this time. The thing's smile twitched. For the first time, it looked unstable. "No," it said quietly. "You are supposed to come with me." Thea shook her head. "I am not lost." The roots around her hesitated. The forest itself seemed unsure, as if something it depended on was slipping away. Thea took another step forward. "You are not memory. You are not her. You are what happens when grief refuses to end." The glow inside the stones began to weaken. The humming turned uneven. The thing stepped backward for the first time, its face flickering between Ivy and something far more wrong. "Stop." Thea felt fear rise again. But she did not step back. She held her ground and spoke the final truth. "Let her go." Silence. The forest froze completely. Then the scream began. Not from Thea, not from Ivy, but from everywhere at once. The stone circle shattered outward in a burst of light. Roots recoiled violently. The trees shook as if something massive had been ripped out from beneath them. The figure collapsed to its knees, its form breaking apart like smoke caught in wind. Ivy's face flickered one last time, eyes wide, not smiling anymore. "Thea," it whispered. This time it sounded almost real. Then it was gone. The forest went silent. The glow disappeared. The stone circle crumbled into ordinary rock. The roots sank back into the earth, like something finally letting go. Thea stood alone in the clearing, breathing heavily. The wind returned slowly, soft, cold, real. For a long moment she did not move. Then she whispered, "I remember you, but I will not follow you anymore." The forest did not answer. Only the sound of rain beginning far away, like the world finally remembering how to end. The rain started before Thea reached the edge of the forest. At first it was light, almost gentle, like the sky itself was uncertain about what had just happened. But with every step she took away from the shattered stone circle, the rain grew heavier. Black Hollow appeared through the trees like a distant memory she was returning to after being gone too long. But something felt different. Not in the forest behind her, in the world ahead. Thea stopped at the tree line. Her hands trembled slightly. She looked back once. The forest was still there. Quiet. Normal. Just trees and mist and silence. No glowing stones, no voices, no ivy, only wind moving through branches like nothing had ever happened. For a moment, doubt returned. A sharp, dangerous thought. What if nothing changed? What if it was still there? What if it was waiting quietly again? Thea closed her eyes tightly. No, she whispered to herself. Not anymore. Then she stepped out of the forest. The moment her foot touched the road, everything felt heavier, like reality had density again, like the world had fully locked into place. She walked toward her car slowly, each step pulling her further away from the forest, but also pulling her deeper into something she did not yet understand. The town of Black Hollow was visible now. Dim lights through the rain, empty streets, silent houses, too silent. Thea frowned slightly. It was too quiet for this time of night, too still. She reached her car and paused. Something was wrong. The driver door was slightly open. She was certain she had locked it. Slowly she stepped closer. Her reflection in the window looked normal, just tired. Wet hair stuck to her face, dark circles under her eyes. A girl who had spent too long fighting something invisible. She reached for the door, then stopped. Inside the car, something was sitting in the passenger seat. Thea froze completely. Her breath caught in her throat. No, not again. Slowly she leaned forward, rainwater dripping from her hair onto the glass. The passenger seat was empty. She exhaled sharply. A wave of relief hit her so fast it almost made her dizzy. Then she saw it. In the back seat, a small shape, sitting perfectly still, watching her. Thea turned slowly, her body already knowing before her mind accepted it. Ivy. But not the ivy from the forest, not the broken imitation. This was different, clearer, quieter, sitting with her hands folded in her lap like she had always belonged there. Her face looked calm, almost peaceful. Thea stepped back from the car. No. Her voice cracked. No, no, no. Ivy tilted her head slightly. The movement was gentle, familiar, the same way she used to do when she was thinking. You came back. The voice was soft, warm, wrong. Thea shook her head violently. You are not real. The smile appeared slowly. Not wide, not broken, just small, sad. Thea clenched her fists. I let you go. I destroyed it. I saw it end. Ivy looked down for a moment, as if considering that. Then she spoke again. Did you? Thea stepped forward without realizing it. The rain around them suddenly felt colder. The streetlights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied again. Ivy continued. Or did you just break what you could see? Silence. Thea felt something twist in her chest. No. That thing is gone. I felt it disappear. I saw it. Ivy's eyes softened. You saw what it wanted you to see. Thea shook her head. Stop. Just stop. Ivy leaned slightly forward in the back seat. The movement was slow, careful, like she did not want to scare her, or like she already knew she could not. Do you remember the promise? Thea froze. No, do not do that. But her mind betrayed her immediately. The memory came anyway. Two girls sitting by Hollow Creek, laughing, hands intertwined, saying words they did not understand the weight of. Forever. Thea stepped back again. Her voice broke. That was just something we said. Ivy nodded. Yes, and you believed it. The rain suddenly grew heavier, hitting the roof of the car harder now, like the sky was pressing down. Thea took a shaky breath. You died. I buried you. said goodbye. Ivy's expression did not change, but something behind her eyes shifted. A depth that was not sadness, not anger, something patient. I never left. Thea backed away from the car completely now, her whole body shaking. No, you are not her. You are not anything. You are just a shadow, a memory, a trick. Ivy watched her silently, then spoke softly. What is a memory if it can still speak your name? Thea stopped. Her mind screamed at her to run again, but her body did not move, because something about this was different from before. The thing in the forest had felt raw, broken, imitation, but this felt like Ivy, too much like her. The way she spoke, the way she waited, the way she understood silence. Thea whispered, "What are you?" Ivy looked down at her hands for a moment, almost like she was thinking about how to answer. Then she said, "I am what remained when you refused to let me end." Thea felt tears in her eyes again. "No, I let you go. I did everything I could. I said goodbye. I stopped going back there. I tried to forget." Ivy looked up slowly, and that is why I am here. Silence stretched between them, heavy, unbroken. The rain softened slightly, like even the storm was listening now. Thea took one step forward, then another. "You are not real. Say it. You are not real." Ivy did not argue, did not smile, did not disappear. Instead, she said something that made Thea freeze completely. "If I am not real," Ivy said, "then why did the forest stop calling your name?" Thea's breath caught. The rain seemed to pause for a fraction of a second. No sound, no wind, only that sentence hanging in the air. Then Ivy continued, "You think you destroyed it, but you only broke what it showed you. The part shaped like fear, the part shaped like hunger." Thea stepped back again. "That is not true. I saw it die. I felt it break. I saw the stones shatter." Ivy nodded slowly. "Yes, you saw it release what it had gathered. All the grief, all the imitation, all the noise. But something remains after noise ends." Thea shook her head. "No, no, I am done listening to this." She turned toward the street, ready to run again, but her legs stopped because she heard it. Very faint, almost impossible. Her name, not spoken by Ivy, not spoken by anything she could see, but somewhere, far away, inside the town. "Thea," she froze. Ivy's voice came gently behind her. "Do you hear it now?" Thea turned slowly, fear rising again. The street behind her looked normal, but she could feel it now. Something had not ended. Something had only changed shape. The silence in Black Hollow was not emptiness. It was waiting. Thea whispered, "No, I ended it. I saw it end." Ivy stepped out of the car for the first time, standing beside it in the rain, and she said softly, "You ended what you understood." A long pause. Then, "But grief does not end when understood. It ends when it is shared." Thea felt something cold spread through her chest. "What are you saying?" Ivy looked toward the town. The lights flickered in the distance, one by one, like something moving through them. Not fast, not violent, just present. "It is not in the forest anymore." Thea's voice broke. "No, no, that is not possible." Ivy looked at her again, and for the first time there was something almost human in her expression. "Sorrow. You brought it out." Thea stepped back in horror. "I did not. I destroyed it. I ended it." Ivy shook her head. "You broke the shape it used to reach you, but you carried the rest home." Silence. Then the faintest whisper again, from the town. "Closer now." "Thea." Thea turned slowly toward Black Hollow, her entire body frozen. Lights flickered again, then another, and somewhere inside that darkness, something was remembering how to be heard. Thea whispered, "What do I do?" Ivy stood beside her quietly, no longer smiling, just watching the town. "You remember." What? Ivy turned slightly toward her. "Not everything that is gone. is gone in the same way. Some things return when called. Thea's eyes widened. "No," she said. "I did not call it. I stopped it." Ivy met her gaze. "Then say it clearly. What did you choose to carry out of the forest?" Thea opened her mouth, then stopped, because she realized the answer was not simple. She had carried Ivy. She had carried memory. She had carried grief. She had carried refusal. And something else. Something she had not named. The refusal to let go. The rain suddenly felt colder. The whisper from town grew clearer, closer. "Thea." Ivy stepped back slightly. "Whatever you choose now will decide what it becomes." Thea stood between the forest behind her and the town ahead of her, between ending and returning, between letting go and holding on. And for the first time, she understood the real horror. It was never about Ivy coming back. It was about what never leaves when you refuse to say goodbye. The whisper came again, right behind her now, and she turned slowly.